The Paris flea markets, which I can't pronounce the French name for, but the Paris flea markets are one of the biggest in the world. I don't know where they got these pictures from, but this is never that empty. It's always wall-to-wall crowded, can't walk. Or at least when I went it was. But the Paris flea market is one of the biggest in the world. There are over 2,500, almost 3,000 different little stalls that each person has. And originally it was over a dozen flea markets and they combined it into one. So we're going to talk about a local farmer's market, which is similar to a flea market. And this farmer's market there has a $100 membership fee. And then you pay $3 for each hour that you sell. Okay, so your cost is going to be equal to the $100 membership fee plus $3 times the number of hours. If you were a member the previous year, the fee is reduced to $50. So it's $50 plus $3 per hour for your cost if you were a member the previous year. And if we graph those two equations, this is what they would look like. And you'll notice a couple things. One, they have the same slope at 3x, but the starting point, the y-intercept, is different based on if you were a member the year before or not. They're also the same distance apart. You're saving $50 whether you're there for 0 hours or 6 hours or 30 hours. You are saving $50 every single time. Those two lines are parallel, which I know you should remember from last year. So rather than me tell you anything, I just asked what you knew. And these were some of the things you came up with. Parallel lines will not intersect ever. Perpendicular lines intersect at a right angle. Intersecting lines are not parallel or perpendicular. So they meet, but it's not at a right angle. These are going to meet at a right angle. It could be like that, could be like that, could be any sort of twist, but it's a right angle when they meet. Parallel lines are never, ever, ever going to touch. The slope of a parallel line, the two lines have the exact same slope. These slopes, they have a product of -1, but the way to know if two things are going to multiply to -1 is if they're negative reciprocals, such as, I don't know, -3/4 and +4/3. One's negative, one's positive, and they're both reciprocals, meaning the fraction, the numerator and the denominator is switched. Okay? Intersecting lines, the slopes are just not the same and they're not negative reciprocals. So again, it's just anything else. They each have a symbol, so you could say line number 1 is parallel to line number 2. Or you could say line number 1 is perpendicular to line number 2. So they've got their two symbols for them. Perpendicular and parallel. Don't write that down yet. We're going to keep going. It doesn't work for vertical lines. The special thing about vertical lines, as you know, is their slope is undefined. That means they don't have a slope. I can't say two lines have the same slope if neither one of them has a slope at all. So a vertical line, even though it doesn't have a slope, we just have to memorize that vertical lines are parallel to other vertical lines. Vertical lines are perpendicular to horizontal lines. A vertical line and any other kind of line is not going to be parallel or perpendicular. They're just intersecting. So that's special about vertical lines, but it's the same visual. You just can't talk about the slope. So I added that to our notes. We've got the vertical and the vertical with horizontal, or vertical or horizontal, sorry. And it's just a cute comic. Parallel lines have a lot in common, but they never meet ever. You might think that's sad, but every other pair of lines meets once, and then they drift apart forever, which is pretty sad too. Anytime you have straight lines, they're not going to meet more than once. They meet once, and then they drift apart forever. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to get out a sheet of paper, you're going to fold it in 3 different sections, and you should know how to fold things like that. Try to make them as even as possible. You're going to fill in all these notes by pausing the video. Make sure you have the symbols and everything. And then, after you fill in the notes, you're going to take the examples and sort them where they need to go. You should have gotten 4 pages with 9 different pairs each. We're going to do the first page together, so you don't need to cut that out and glue it. But for the second, third, and fourth page, cut out every single square and glue it where it goes. So let's do our example. For this square, the very first one, my slope, and it's kind of hard to see, I'm sorry, is 3/5 and 3/5. They're exactly the same. The two lines are parallel. So if I was cutting and gluing, I would cut it out and go back to your notes, and you would glue that example in there. Okay? But again, you don't have to cut and glue the first page because I did that for you. Just use it as a reference. The second one is -5/7, +7/5, so they're perpendicular. Okay? This one has 3/2 and 8/7. They're not exactly the same, and they're not negative reciprocals, meaning one is negative, the other is positive. So they're not parallel, they're not perpendicular. Instead of saying neither, we say they are intersecting. But all that means is they're not parallel and they're not perpendicular, so they don't really get a special name. Okay, if you get the hang of it, you can pause it and try the rest. If you don't, you can keep listening to me. But pause it when you feel comfortable, at least trying it. There's nothing wrong with getting it wrong and redoing it. 2/5 and 5/2. They're not exactly the same, so it's not parallel. They are reciprocals, but they're both positive. So these are, again, intersecting. You can't have two positive lines and say they're perpendicular. Okay, 1/2 and 2/4. Well, they're both positive, so it's not perpendicular. And you might say right away that they're not parallel, but look, this is 1/2. This reduces to 1/2. Always make sure you have the most reduced slope. So yes, that is parallel. With these, you're going to want to circle the slope so that, one, I can give you partial credit if you get it wrong. I at least know you were looking at the right thing. But more importantly, so that you have a visual aid to help you when you're ready. Okay? And then for this one, 4/3, -3/4, perpendicular. That's actually the example I used a minute ago. This is y equals 8x, so 8 is our slope, 9 is our slope. Neither, those are just intersecting, which doesn't have a symbol. This is 3/9 if you can't see it, and that reduces to 1/3. This is -3, which we can make a fraction, -3/1. So even though when we first look at it right here, it doesn't really look like they have any kind of relationship, once we make them reduced fractions, they are perpendicular. They're reciprocals, and one's negative, one's positive. All right, the last one is 3/7 and 3/7, so they are parallel. When it's in slope-intercept form, I don't predict you having a problem as long as you remember to reduce. Keep in mind, you can also have an equation in point-slope form, where here's the slope, and those two are perpendicular. Sometimes you'll have an equation where it's not solved for you. It's like maybe 3x plus 2y equals 7. Do not just take the x's coefficient. Don't do that. Solve for y. Get y equals, and for this one, I'm going to go ahead and solve it. But if you know how to solve, you are done watching the video and can get your project done. -3x minus 3x, so 2y, because I brought this straight down, equals, and I've got 7 minus 3x. Okay, I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, and I get y equals, because I didn't divide by 2y, I just got rid of the 2. Y equals 7/2 minus 3/2 x. And you know that the slope is always x's coefficient, -3/2. Or you can rewrite it as -3/2 x plus, because it's positive, 7/2. Okay? And if you had another pair of lines, you would remember that this is the number you're looking at, not the 3 just because it was next to the x. You're looking at -3/2 for this particular example. Okay, again, solving for y is just like we did before. Your whole goal is to find the slope. If the slopes are identical, it's parallel. If the slopes are negative reciprocals, meaning one's negative, one's negative, one's positive, and they're upside down, negative reciprocals is perpendicular. Neither one of those is intersecting. Good luck.